December 7th, 1941. Before sunrise, on a windy cliff above Oahu, a young American soldier stared into the dark sky. The ocean below him was calm. The air smelled like salt and rain. He adjusted a strange metal frame made from wire and scrap parts. It looked like something pulled from a trash bin. Then his screen flickered. Dots appeared. Many dots. Coming fast. Coming straight to Hawaii. The Japanese pilots were calm and sure. They'd trained for months in secret, rehearsing their attack runs over Japanese waters that mirrored Pearl Harbor's layout. Their planes were fast. Their timing was perfect. They flew in tight formations, maintaining radio silence, invisible to conventional detection methods. Radar was still new. Americans barely trusted it. Most officers thought it was a toy. No one believed a wire antenna could see anything useful, especially not something that looked like a bent coat hanger. But that night, everything changed. The soldier watching the screen was only 21. He wasn't a scientist. He wasn't an officer. He was just another enlisted man doing his duty on a Sunday morning when most of the base was still asleep. He followed orders and fixed broken gear. When he called in what he saw, the officer on duty laughed. 15 planes, the kid said. Maybe more. The officer told him it was nothing. Probably birds. Or weather. Maybe even their own B-17s flying in from California. The kid kept watching. The dots grew closer. His hands shook. He knew this wasn't nothing. He could see the way they moved, the speed, the direction. This was deliberate. This was organized. This was an attack formation. Quick thing before I continue. If you enjoy insane WW2 stories like this, hit subscribe. We tell real moments where one small idea changes everything. You won't want to miss what's coming next. That wire antenna detected 15 enemy planes before radar units were fully active. Those planes would help start the most famous surprise attack in history. This is the story of how a mocked piece of wire warned America first, and how few people listened. Before the war, Japan ruled the skies in the Pacific. Their pilots were elite, handpicked from thousands of candidates and trained to perfection. Their planes turned faster than anything else. The Zero fighter could outmaneuver any American aircraft in production. They'd crushed China and shocked the world with their aerial superiority. American defenses were weak and spread thin across thousands of miles of ocean. Early warning systems were rare. Radar was new and clumsy. Many commanders trusted eyesight and sound more than machines. They relied on coastal observers with binoculars, a system that gave them mere minutes of warning at best. Japan believed surprise would win the war in one blow. Strike hard, strike fast, destroy the American Pacific Fleet before it could respond. America's advantage wasn't speed or skill at first. It was a curiosity. American engineers kept trying ideas others ignored. One of those ideas used simple radio waves. Send a signal out. Wait for it to bounce back. Measure the time. Calculate the distance. Early radar sets were huge and fragile, weighing several tons and requiring entire buildings to house them. But some soldiers built smaller setups using spare parts. Wire frames. Old radios. Antennas bent by hand. Vacuum tubes salvaged from broken equipment. They weren't pretty, but they worked. Not perfectly, but well enough to matter. The antenna on Oahu wasn't official. It wasn't approved by headquarters or listed in any manual. It was built because someone asked, what if this helps? What if we can see them coming? It could hear echoes in the sky. It could tell distance and direction. Not clearly, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to know planes were coming long before eyes could see them. Enough to give defenders precious minutes to prepare. The first real test came that morning. December 7th. The antenna picked up movement far out over the ocean. 15 planes at first. Then more. The signal grew stronger with each passing minute. The operator reported it up the chain of command, following proper procedure. The report went nowhere. Higher officers believed American planes were due in from the mainland that morning. They'd been expecting a flight of B-17 bombers. They ignored the warning. They dismissed it as friendly aircraft or atmospheric interference. Minutes later, bombs fell on Pearl Harbor. The peaceful Sunday morning erupted into chaos and fire. After the attack, everything changed fast. Suddenly, no one laughed at wire antennas. The crude device that had been mocked just hours before was now being studied by every engineer on the base. America rushed radar units across the Pacific. Improved versions went to ships and islands. Military budgets suddenly had unlimited funding for radar research. Antennas grew taller. Screens grew clearer. Warnings came earlier. New facilities sprang up on hilltops and coastal points throughout the Pacific Theater. At Midway, just 6 months later, radar spotted incoming Japanese planes with time to spare. Fighters were ready. Guns were manned. Surprise was gone. The same tactic that had devastated Pearl Harbor now failed completely. The numbers tell the story. Radar could see planes over 100 miles away. Coast watchers once had minutes. Now they had hours. America built thousands of radar sets during the war. Production lines ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Japan couldn't keep up. They lacked the industrial capacity and the technical knowledge to match American radar production. They lost planes before pilots ever saw an enemy. Their old edge vanished like morning fog in sunlight. Japanese pilots noticed. Many wrote about it after the war in their memoirs and interviews. They said Americans always seemed ready. Attacks failed. Traps waited. Ambushes that should have succeeded were anticipated and countered. One pilot said it felt like the sky itself was watching them. Another said surprise was dead. The wire and waves had beaten courage and skill. The psychological impact was devastating for pilots who had once dominated the Pacific skies. The young soldier on Oahu stayed quiet. He didn't give interviews. He wasn't famous. His name rarely appeared in history books. But he knew what he'd seen. He'd watched the dots move across the screen. He'd warned them. And even though no one listened that day, the lesson stuck. The military never ignored a radar warning again. By 1944, radar covered oceans and continents. It guided bombers home through darkness and storms. It saved ships from ambush. It turned night into day. America didn't just fight harder. It learned faster. It took small ideas and built them big. The improvised antenna on Oahu became the foundation for a network that spanned the globe. That coat hanger antenna didn't win the war alone. But it showed something important. In World War II, victory often came from people willing to try the strange idea. The ugly idea. The idea everyone laughed at. The idea that looked like junk but changed everything. One final number says it all. By the end of the war, America produced more radar sets than Japan produced planes. The technology that started with wire and hope had become an unstoppable advantage. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, subscribe and stay with us. Next time, we'll tell another moment when history almost went unheard.